Are you new to appeal writing for donors, or maybe you've been doing this for a long time like I have, and you just feel like you need to reinvigorate your persuasive writing style? Either way, I'm here to help. There are some very simple, effective ways to emotionally connect to your donors and make them feel really excited about supporting your cause. Now, I know there are a million templates out there online that will give you the format for appeal letters and talk about the elements that you need to include, but I'm here now to talk about how to build an emotional connection through your writing with your donor. And they're really easy, simple little steps that you can take that are going to create a better return for your appeal letters. We're gonna dig into it all, but before we get started, I'm Karen Elizabeth Bryant, fundraising strategist and coach. I've been working in the nonprofit fundraising field for almost 20 years, and I'm here to help you build better relationships, raise more money, and not burn out in the process, because we all know that is far too rampant in our field. Let's dig into it. There are 6 elements of an appeal letter that you're going to want to sit down and think through before you ever put a pen to paper. Those 6 elements are: number 1, the outer envelope. It's the very first thing your donor is going to see, and it is critically important to get that right. Number 2 is the letter itself, of course. Number 3 is a buck slip or an insert. If you're not familiar with the term buck slip, it is usually a smaller piece of paper that is printed on both sides. We'll talk about that in a minute. Number 4 is your reply envelope. Number 5 is your reply form. And number 6 is your thank you letter. Yes, the thank you letter that you're going to keep in-house is just as important as all the other elements of your appeal. Today, we're going to talk about how to emotionally connect to your donor through each of those different pieces. So first, let's talk about the envelope. The outer envelope is the very first thing that your donor is going to see, and data shows that if you can include a color picture on that outer envelope, the chances of having someone open it are much higher. So if at all possible, try to include a compelling color photo on that outer envelope with consent, if there are people pictured, of course. And the other piece of it can be a little bit of text, something that is really going to grab someone's attention. If you have a matching gift campaign going on, oftentimes organizations will use that language to get people to know, oh, this is a special opportunity. Now let's talk about the letter. Of course, the letter is going to be the biggest way that you connect with your donors emotionally, and one of the most important pieces of your appeal package. The very first thing that is going to make a big difference is how you address your donor. Please do not put dear friends, dear supporters, dear partners. You really need to have someone's first name if you can, or if it's a little more formal relationship, you could have dear Mr. So-and-so or dear Ms. or Miss or Mrs. So-and-so. Please do not put dear Mr. and Mrs., insert husband's name, last name. Speaking as a woman and a wife, it is a very impersonal way to address me and really doesn't connect me emotionally to your letter at all. But using my first name, that's gonna have a much bigger impact. The next really important piece that's gonna connect emotionally to someone is the very first couple of sentences. That opening paragraph might be the most important thing you write in your letter, and it really needs to not only grab attention, but make whoever is reading want to continue reading what you have to say. A lot of times organizations will use something that's really shocking in that first sentence, really grabs attention. Shocking might seem a little bit extreme, but that is going to grab people's attention. So it might be a statistic, or it might be something really shocking that's happening right now that you want to use to get people to make a difference about. The other thing that that first paragraph can be is something that brings your reader into an emotion. So it might be something like, do you feel overwhelmed by X, Y, and Z? Or something along those lines that are gonna make people think about the way they're feeling about the topic that you are going to write about. Just don't forget that some people will only read that first paragraph They may not read any of the other detail that you put in your letter, so it's really important. The third way that you can connect with people inside of their appeal letter is by thanking them and referencing past support or engagement with your organization. When you pull your mailing list, if you're pulling it into an Excel form, you typically can pull the last gift someone made or the biggest gift someone made. And I've also worked in databases where you can pull the last event that they attended. Whatever the connection of the person you're writing to is with your organization, referencing that is a great way to let them know that you know who they are and how they're engaging with you. The next way to engage with somebody emotionally in a letter is to tell a story. People love stories, and stories tend to stick in people's minds much longer than reciting a bunch of statistics will. If you can tell a story about impact that donors within your organization have made on someone's life or on a place or whatever it is that you're working on, that is a really wonderful way to let people know that their support can also have the same effect. And speaking of that, make sure you have multiple references throughout your letter about how their impact is going to affect the change that you are seeking. Rather than talking about your organization being the change maker, talk about the donor and their financial support in a way that is creating change. Say, your support at this time will X, Y, and Z, or reference your story. You can say your support right now will create more change and reference the topic of the story and the great outcome that you just described to them. Making sure that you put the donor front and center in the story is so important to get them to feel like they can really be a part of what your organization is doing. The one caution I have is you want to try to avoid saviorism language. There is a lot of it out there. Look into that. I'll try to create another video that talks about that, but it's really important and it can be a really tricky fine line, but you want to let someone know the impact they can have without putting down the group or the community or the places that you're talking about. Another way in the letter that's really important for emotionally connecting with people is to include color photos. I know not every organization has the ability to print their letters in color, and in that case, black and white is okay, but color photos really and truly are the best, especially if you have people's faces or beautiful landscape scenes. Those tend to engage people emotionally. Of course, always make sure you have consent and give photo credit in those photos. And the last piece, of course, is your PS. The PS in a letter is prime real estate. A lot of people who don't maybe read the content of the entire letter will read that first paragraph that we talked about and the PS. So in that PS, you want to thank the donor, let them know what their gift will make happen, and say thank you. Moving on to the buck slip. The buck slip or an insert is a really nice addition to an appeal letter to just amplify the message that you're trying to share. Sometimes the story element that we talked about can come out in that buck slip. You could even have a person or a community that has been impacted by the work that you do write a letter and put that in as your buck slip or insert. I've seen those be really effective. Sometimes organizations will use this piece with a petition where people can sign the petition and mail it back to you with their gift. Other times people will include a QR code to a petition. The other thing that I've seen organizations do, especially at year end, is put other ways to give on this piece. Year end especially is a very effective time to talk about gifts of stock, gifts of qualified charitable distributions from retirement accounts, and other kinds of planned or asset-based gifts. There are lots of effective ways to use this piece. The next piece, of course, is your reply form. On that reply form, try to include some personal information. Most often, especially if you're working with a mail house or a receiving house for your donations, they are going to have you put the donor's name, their address, and a few other codes in there. Those elements not only help when you're processing gifts when they come back, but it also is another point of personal connection, letting your donor know you know who they are, You can even use this space to gain information like updated email addresses. You can merge in the email address you have for them on file so that they can check it, update it. I've seen that work really effectively for organizations. And the last thing that I'll say is, if you have the ability, segmenting a small portion of your appeal letters to include a handwritten note, sometimes even a handwritten mailing address, can be really effective. I've seen organizations who recruit their board members at their year-end board meeting to do this process, or just have a small group of volunteers who do handwritten notes and include those with certain letters of donors who maybe tend to give more or who are very engaged in your organization in some way. This is just a really nice personal touch and also will help with return rates. Okay, I hope these personalization and emotional engagement ideas help spark some new ideas for you in your appeal writing. If you have other ideas that you use, I'd love to hear about them in the comments. Maybe we can include them in future conversations. And if you have any questions that are still lingering, please let me know. I love to be in touch. If you found anything in this video that you find useful or interesting, please like and subscribe. Again, it's very encouraging to me. It allows me to keep creating more free content like this so we can build this community, because we are all together in trying to make this world a better place. Thanks for watching.